In this video, we're going to go over the basics of the isometric middle split. This is a very versatile and very potent tool, and for a lot of people this can be all you actually need in order to work your way towards eventually flat middle splits. The basic idea is very simple. You just get into whatever depth of a middle split that you can hold for about 30 seconds by actively pushing your feet down into the floor, either completely unsupported or with your hands on your hips. Now we want to keep track of the distance between the feet. The ideal would be to actually measure how many centimeters there are and then keep that constant. You could also do something like count the amount of, here we have some boards, so I can count like the distance between the boards. Or I could use, for example, a stack of yoga blocks to measure the distance between the ground and my floor and know that I just need to stay hovering just above, whatever stack of yoga blocks I have. Now, the basic idea will be to start out at 30-second holds with 10 to 15 seconds in reserve, and then gradually try to do longer and longer holds until you're able to hold for 45 seconds. Once you get to that point, you would go slightly deeper and start over at 30 seconds. And in the perfect world, you could just repeat that process until you are flat on the floor. Now, a few things to be aware of here. First of all, the combination of footwear and floor can make a huge difference in how deep you are able to work. So with the combination of these shoes and this floor, I have a lot of grip, so it's quite easy for me actually to hold this position because the shoes are doing a lot of the work for me. However, if I lose the shoes and just wear socks, now I have to work really hard actually to maintain the position and not slide out any further. And we do want to be really strict in this variation about not sliding out any further during our holds. Now, the perfect combination of footwear and floor will be individual. There is this Goldilocks zone where you are slidey enough that you can actually get into the position that you want to hold and reach the desired depth, but you are firm enough and grippy enough that you don't have to tap out way too soon. So it'll take a little bit of experimentation, and over time, as you build strength, you might levitate towards wanting a bit less grip on the floor. When starting out with these, especially if you are new to this kind of active work, make sure that you have an exit strategy in place before doing your first sets. A great way to do that is to start by having a chair or box or something in front of you, so that when you are finishing your holds, it's easy for you to just put your weight on the chair and scoot yourself out of the position. There is also always the option of ending your holds by coming onto the floor and then coming out of the position. The important thing is just that you beforehand have a clear idea about what your exit strategy is going to be, and I do recommend testing it out before really doing an intense work set. Now, if you are working on these or starting work on these, you should already have a decent idea about the configuration that works for you when getting into a middle split. And more precisely, you need to have an idea of the amount of hip tilt that you need. So when getting into the middle split, the path of the hip will resemble an inverted question mark. So I will be able to slide down into the position, keeping the hips more or less in line with the heels, but at some point I will have to start anteriorly tilting my hip more, and you could say twerking, and my hip will start to move slightly backwards. And as I approach my deeper ranges, eventually, if I'm going very close to my full middle split, the hips will eventually start to come a bit forwards again. But just knowing that the hip needs to go slightly backwards and you need to twerk more as you get into the position will be quite important for being able to access deeper ranges comfortably. And the amount of twerk or anterior pelvic tilt needed is going to be highly individual, so it is something that is also worth experimenting with a bit.